Dr. Arthur Frank, with decades of experience talking about the absurdities of asbestos. But how has this happened? How did we really enter into the perfect storm? I'm going to give you insight and information now exactly about what I think has happened. This is about people. Yes, we need the facts and stats, but it's about people. And this is very personal to me because in 2003, a day after Father's Day, my husband and Emily's father was diagnosed with mesothelioma, as you know, an incurable asbestos-caused cancer. Alan was a champ. He was a warrior. He fought hard. But like we know, most asbestos victims die quickly, 6 to 12 months after. During the day, you're going to hear us use the word victim. And that does not mean someone who's submissive. But it does mean someone who's been exposed, someone who may have been diagnosed, their family, because they suffer too, and of course those who have been silenced by asbestos, the decedents. Now, how did this perfect storm really happen? Well, let's start here. Corruption, profiteering, but the latency period of 10 to 50 years makes identifying those who've been exposed and diagnosed, it's a difficult path. But look at these fibers. There are 20,000 fibers under President Lincoln's nose compared to grains of rice and human hair. And Sean, thank you for this slide. It's been a great tool for us. On this chart, I'd like to show you 5 touch points. The perfect storm. We knew over 100 years ago asbestos was linked to disease, but I want you to see on that graph the amount of asbestos that was consumed in the United States. We talk about trade unions, who I absolutely adore. They knew in the 30s that this was a problem. Terry Lynch, sitting here in the audience, the Asbestos Insulator Union, they fought hard to make things happen to protect their workers. It was the union voice that started, and Jim Moran also, I know, was part of that. In 1964, if we go up the bar chart there, the line chart, you'll see that Dr. Selikoff made significant contributions to public health. But what happened? We continued to use asbestos. In fact, it didn't peak until 1973, almost 10 years after Dr. Selikoff's landmark conference. And it peaked when we were using over 800,000 tons. 800,000 tons. That was 1 year. The perfect storm continued because the EPA failed to ban asbestos because of industry pressure. And although on that last chart it looked like we'd fallen off and we flatlined, not true. This 14-year period shows you that during this time span we've imported and used 55,000 metric tons of asbestos. And why? To meet manufacturing needs. And do you know that during the last 4 years, nearly 80% of our asbestos came from Brazil? And Fernanda's going to talk about that. These are just 2 of the deaths during a time span, 73,000. Of course, it's only 2 deaths, but what you really need to, I want you to understand, is if you look at how many mesothelioma deaths of, say, 40,000, you can take a multiplier of 6, which is from the WHO, and really try to calculate how many other people die from asbestos-caused lung cancers. And Dr. Raja Flores will be talking about that. Asbestos is the largest man-made disaster in history, in my opinion. And now, 2/3 of the global burden of disease is actually caused from asbestos. This was a new landmark study that came out in 2013. 2/3. I mean, that's staggering to think that, that workers are still being exposed, but you heard Dr. Frank talk about it. And I've testified next to Robert Nolan before, and we differ from opinion, because I believe all forms of asbestos cause cancer, and I know Robert Nolan and I disagree, but there's no reason why we should be using it when safer substitutes exist. This is an important slide because it shows you that 47% of the global population actually accounts for the top use. You have the top 10 producers and users here. These countries are huge in population, and if we in the United States don't have policy, and in Canada to ban it, our message is sent to other countries, developing countries, that it's okay to use asbestos, that a little bit of chrysotile is really not a problem. That's a lie. That's propaganda. That's the perfect storm. So what if I told you that Ford spent $40 million to reshape asbestos science? They did. The Center for Public Integrity published that report. But let me tell you, friends, this isn't the only company that paid money to reshape science. This is common create doubt, suppress documents, fund lawmakers who support asbestos, fund lawmakers who like to violate asbestos victims' civil rights. The perfect storm. My dear friend Alex is in the aisle over there, Alex from EWG. We have tested crayons and products during the last 15 years. We have identified reporters, ADAO, and EWG, that asbestos still remains in consumer products as confirmed in these crayons. We have no ban. It comes in. Our children are being exposed. Our workers are being exposed. Our families are being exposed. There's actually 7 bills that we have been working on just in 2016. 7. We're trying to reconcile TSCA to have that bill actually finally ban asbestos. There are 2 READ Acts which will allow us to know where asbestos might be hiding, because right now we don't know. Nothing's marked. You can't make good consumer choices. You can't vote with your dollars. The FACT Act is horrific, and yes, it passed the House, but we did pull off Republicans because people are getting wise. There is sunshine. The perfect storm is ending. We can communicate electronically so effectively and quickly. We can dispel the propaganda machines and disable it once and for all. And no, the FACT Act is not for asbestos victims. But I'm excited to tell you that, yes, we did get the Asbestos Awareness Week resolution. And it was pretty exciting this last week. It just concluded on Thursday. We had countries obviously came together for a week of sharing. Every day had different content. So although the week has ended, please go to our website and look at the content, because we have blogs from Celeste and many others that were widely shared. But we continued to raise awareness. It wasn't until Thursday night at 5 p.m. Celeste and I smile. We smile. We are tough. And if we want what we want what's right. And if our resolution calls for the Surgeon General to issue a warning, then when that day comes to an end and we don't have a warning, we're still inquiring nicely. And we got it at 5:18 on the last day of Asbestos Awareness Week. So share this annual Surgeon General warning, because the Surgeon General agrees. There's no safe level of exposure, and while promising research continues, prevention remains the only cure. So during today, you're going to hear a lot about Hear Asbestos, Think Prevention, and I hope that we can inspire each of you to make change happen and to support asbestos victims, not only in the United States, but around the world, is what we want to do. Thank you.